Now, the Prime Minister today, of course, greatest Prime Minister of all time. Now, yes, of course, there was that big burst of energy when a couple of things were done on the first day of Parliament, but not much has happened since the May election. There's just been the forever victory lap. And, of course, the preparations for the economic reform roundtable, you know, the handpicked one, which will basically give the government the green light to do whatever it's already done. It's a reheat, as I told you last night, of the Jobs Summit a couple of years ago, and it's a reheat of the Kevin Rudd sitting on the floor with the butcher's paper from 2007. Now, there's an old saying, which is you don't start an inquiry unless you know what the outcome is going to be. In the case of this particular roundtable, yes, they've said everyone's welcome, but not everyone is welcome. You still need to be, to some degree, handpicked by the government. We know that the unions have had their positions and plenty of others when it comes to tax. But in many ways, what this forum has done, which is to serve as some sort of a backstop because nothing really has happened since May. Here we are now in August, and put simply, not much has happened since the election. Fine by me, because I don't want many more things to get worse in the country. But as I've explained all week, and I will relentlessly explain for the next week, all of this is really theatre, because they know what they already want to do. And if they didn't know what they already wanted to do, then how the hell did they have any stones to turn around and say, hey, give us 3 more years as the government? And did the Australian people fall for a pup when they turned around and in huge numbers, either by first or second preference, actually backed this mob in with a near record majority? No, what will end up happening is that they will make it seem like all of these ideas on butcher's paper are just great ideas that they had never had before. And because somebody else had the idea, they can't be blamed for it. It's a little bit like every time the pay rises are given to politicians, you can't possibly blame us. It's an independent committee, of which we pick the people to go on the independent committee. But you get my point. Well, many people have been suggesting there should be changes to the tax system. In fact, most of the third day of the 3-day conference is about a better tax system. But the Prime Minister came out today and tried to put out a fire that he and his Treasurer started and have let run for weeks because they have nothing else to do despite being freshly returned to government.
Our tax policy, the only tax policy that we're implementing, is the one that we took to the election.
Then why are you having the roundtable? Why is basically a half of the 3 days entitled a better tax system? Because you just want to have the conversation? Well, you can have that conversation in many different ways, but the idea of everyone flying to Canberra and all the money that will be spent in and around this glorified handing off exercise when it comes to responsibility tells me that not everything is going to meet the eye here. Now, are they talking about an increase in taxes? Well, that may well be unlikely, but will they talk about a reduction in the current system when it comes to taxation that may well benefit you or your family? That's what I think they might be talking about. But also, it comes at odds with the bloke who is putting all of this together. Now, presumably these two people are talking. Presumably, these two people are working hand in glove, because the snake charmer said this just yesterday about everyone who's got lots of ideas, including changing the tax system, when this meeting eventually gets underway in a couple of weeks.
But what I've tried to do, and not just in relation to the ACTU, but the BCA, the PC and others who've made these suggestions, is I don't want to get in the habit of knocking off ideas before we get in the room. And I want people to feel like their contributions are valued, because they are.
So yesterday, I'm not going to rule anything out. I want everyone to come with their ideas. Today, Prime Minister says, hey, just so you know, thanks for the ideas, but the decision is there will be no changes to anything to do with tax, because we took a certain series of things to the election. Can anyone work out which one of these ones is telling the truth here? Who's saying the quiet part out loud? Also, what about the snake charmer turning around and telling business? And you've heard how many ideas of recent days about changes to the tax system, saying that business don't just come with an idea, but come for a plan to pay for it. Well, I wonder if the very same thing is going to apply to people who want to change the GST. The Grattan Institute, of course, with their bias towards bigger taxes. The ACTU with its changes when it comes to things like housing reform. And we even learned today, again, that the Teals, or one of them at least, is trying to talk about increasing the GST to as many products as possible, because this is a way of trying to settle the amount of money the government gets. But as I've told you 1 trillion times before, roughly speaking, about $300 billion is how much they get out of the individual taxpayer. About 200, in fact, a little bit less than that, is how much they get out of company tax, and they don't even get $100 billion out of the GST. So even if you broaden the GST, you're going to have to basically treble the size of it to get anywhere near what the current population is paying when it comes to the tax that we pay weekly, fortnightly or monthly, or whenever you get your good old-fashioned pay packet, or most likely the pay slip coming from your boss. There's also a bunch of welfare groups, including literal relatives, I believe, of some pretty powerful people in the country, are openly talking about backing in the union position when it comes to negative gearing. Now, I think that is what is ultimately in the next 3 years going to be a big change. I think there is going to be a change to negative gearing. I don't hate the idea of limiting it to 1 or 2 properties, but the system is going to have a pretty significant change, and I believe it'll come sooner rather than later. You've seen the drumbeat from the media, you've seen the drumbeat from the left, and just like they had a win on the stage 3 tax cuts being redistributed and people earning over $180,000, bugger you, no matter how few they are, but the amount of tax they pay is eye-watering. Half, remember, half. So do you believe the Treasurer who says, come one, come all, or do you believe this bloke who, remember, in 2022 said no changes to tax, but ended up, of course, changing, among other things, superannuation and the stage 3 tax cuts?
Our tax policy, the only tax policy that we're implementing, is the one that we took to the election.